right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told. And nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 211 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey updates. So it's been a couple of weeks since I gave you guys a weigh-in result. The last episode, my weigh-in result was a gain of 4 pounds. This week, I am down 1.4 pounds. Total loss since January 2019 is 175.2 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 24.8 pounds. So today I have something on my mind. This episode will probably have very little to do with me, personally. There's this show on TV. The show is called My 600-Pound Life. This show does very bad things to me. I rarely volunteer to watch this. Like, I don't go looking for it. Oftentimes, I will come into the bedroom to go to sleep, and my wife will have it on already. And sometimes I change it right away. But other times, I stick around. The few times I stick around, it's for a reason that is not very healthy when it comes to me. I'm openly admitting all this. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or anything. This is just something I do. You see, this show is about people who are overly obese, right? And it's getting to the point where they only have one hope left, and that is gastric bypass surgery. When I see this show, the people themselves and their stories are not what I experience. So usually how I stick around or end up sticking around is that I start to see myself in the person. The one thing that makes me crazy about this show is, if you've ever seen it, it'll make it so you never want to eat, because they literally it's like they have double zoom on the face of the person eating. And it just makes you never want to eat again watching it. If you guys went to the beginning, you already know this. But if you never went to the first episodes and listened to the very beginning of this podcast, my journey started many years ago, back in 2004, when I had gastric bypass surgery. I had a lot of success in a very, very short amount of time. The one thing I can honestly tell you in that experience is that amount of time and how quickly that success comes is nowhere near enough to learn the lessons needed for you to retain the success that you achieve. I mean, the last time I checked, the average was in the 40th percentile. So somewhere between 40 and 50% of the people who have some sort of bariatric surgery end up gaining all of their weight back, and some of them even more. The actual reason is they never actually change the behavior. And I know because I'm telling you firsthand, the behavior never changes, and yet the results are achieved. This is why I call bariatric surgery a method of manufacturing a result. Learning the lessons necessary to keep the result is a huge part of the equation that nobody considers. So oftentimes I'll come in, I'll lay down, get ready for bed, and I'll watch TV for a little bit before I actually turn over and go to sleep. But what catches my eye and what makes me stay is I see them reiterating the exact same excuses I made. I see them doing the exact same things I did to mess up my progress. So it doesn't become a reflection on them. It becomes a teardown of me. However long the episode is, I'll spend that time punishing myself, essentially, and allowing myself to relive all of those things. See, you did this. This is you. That's exactly your words. And I do it so that I never forget what I did. I never pretend in my mind that part of my life wasn't created by me because of those instances. And oftentimes I become instantly enraged because of what I see. And I'm reliving all of the nonsense I told myself and I told other people during this time. I know this is not healthy. But once I'm triggered, I stay. There's no stopping me. So I'm locked in at that point, reliving all of the nonsense I told myself and other people as I wasted the next 15 years of my life. But this Wednesday, when I walked into my bedroom to get ready for bed and the show was on, something completely different happened. I didn't get angered at myself. Now, I'm not telling you that I won't ever get angered at myself if I ever see this show on again. I'm just telling you that this particular episode didn't cause me to condemn myself. This particular episode caused my heart to break. All I saw on this episode was a young woman who could not get out of her own way. Seeing her on the show, Where Are They Now?, caused me to want to search for the first episode that she appeared on the show. She appeared on the show with her husband. And they called her VNA. It's Vianey, I believe. Her actual name, Vanessa, I think. And the husband was Alan. In the first episode, they show the husband initially is the one struggling. But the husband also is in better shape. He's heavier, but in better shape because he's the one taking care of her. He's older, heavier, and yet mobile enough to be able to take care of her. He was the one doing all the household chores, the one cooking, the one going out grocery shopping. They met somehow. I don't really know the details. I think it was online. They come together and they get married. What brought them together was their equal addiction of the same thing. They found comfort in knowing that the person they were with could not condemn them because essentially they were their buddy. They were the same position. They enabled each other to remain exactly where they were and give themselves enough delusion that it was all going to be okay because they had each other. But even in this strange bond, what brought them together, they loved their addiction more than they loved each other. Because as much as they loved each other, they were so heavy, they couldn't sleep in the same bed. They were sleeping in separate bedrooms because of the size. So because he's the guy who is doing everything, because he has to go out and buy groceries, he has the opportunity. And so as he's out of the house and alone, he's stopping at drive-thrus and he's making sure he eats all of that food before he goes home. So initially, she did extremely well and him not so much. She got approved for surgery right away, where he did not. But something happened while she was getting this surgery. During the operation, her heart stopped. And in order to get her stable, they essentially had to stop the surgery. They brought her back, they got a pulse again, and they couldn't go through with the process. This essentially was the beginning of her downfall. She was so devastated, so invested that she was going to come out of this and have a different life, that the news that they could not do this caused her to wish that they couldn't bring her back. She would rather be dead than face what she was facing. That's how little she thought of her own life at this point. That is the prison that her addiction put in her head. That her life wasn't worth fighting for, even just a little bit longer. so they can prove that her heart could take the process. She was given the task to lose more weight before they can go through with it. Because they felt that if she dropped more weight, her heart would be in better position to deal with the surgery the second time around. She was never once told she's not eligible. It was essentially inaudible. Hey, we can't do it as planned, but here's the new plan. We need you to lose X amount more because we want to make sure your heart can take this. And this is when I watched her become trapped in her own mind. This is the beginning of her being unable to get out of her own way. Everything after that became the reason why she couldn't keep going. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. Somewhere along the line, her husband started to buy in. Started to understand he really can do this if he just applies himself. So he gets to the point where he loses the amount of weight he needed to lose. in order for the doctor to approve his surgery. And all of this time, instead of just losing the however much more weight the doctor told her to lose, she's wasting time being depressed and bothered by the fact that she's still alive and the doctor couldn't do the surgery. Wasting valuable time. And when they went back to get weighed in, that was the time he got approved, and she had started to go upward in weight. Her depression was seeking her to comfort food, and you could see the cycle starting. She would go through this entire process. She would be depressed, thinking that it was never going to happen, seeking comfort through food, getting to the point where she had to return to the doctor for the next checkup, being terrified of the result and knowing what was coming, leaving there with some sort of magical determination to keep going after facing the music, only to have the exact same cycle happen over and over and over again. It was in this process that you saw one thing after another was the reason she couldn't keep going. I understand we all have issues. I understand. I know better than most people what was going through her mind. And knowing that what was causing this was much more deep-seated than what was being presented on the show. It soon comes that we learn that she had a terrible childhood and a mother that was certainly abusive and condemned her because she was an overweight daughter and did all kinds of things. There were so many things I can relate in this sense. But all of these things became the reason she couldn't continue losing weight. There are many things that happened in my childhood that caused me to use those things as excuses in the process of my life. But at some point, I had to start owning that I was the one holding on to them. At some point in my life, I had to realize there are more years without the situation than there are with the situation. So at 41, for the perfect example, if I'm saying that a relationship with someone that happened when I was 17 or up to the point where I was 17 was the reason for it, now at 46, I'm further away. I have more years of my life without that person than I do with that person. At some point, you are the owner of what you believe the problem to be. And as much as you want to be rid of it, you are holding on to it. She was in therapy, this girl, going through all the steps that the therapist asked her to go through. All the while, her husband's creating success. And now, every time she sits at the dinner table with her husband, you can see her condemning herself just because he's in the room. Now there's a new cycle. It's not just what was happening before. Now you add to that being confronted with someone in the same house who has done everything that the same doctor told him to do and is now on the other end of the story. She got to where she thought the end was. She got to the point where surgery was approved. Something went wrong. She had to do a sidestep, but there was never a plan not to have the surgery. But this sidestep was the beginning of her downfall. Her husband got to the point where he got the surgery and then was living life post-op. And the mere amount of food that he could eat and feel full, she was condemning. The person that she fell in love with because they had a codependent addiction was no longer that person. He was no longer bound by the addiction. And instead of choosing to see that as an inspiration and keep going to get to the point where she can be approved, all she did was beat herself up with it. All she did was say things to him that she was jealous of what success he was creating now. You watch the cycle go on and get worse and get worse. And it gets to the point where the husband, he can't take it anymore. All he wanted was to do this together with his wife and have a real relationship with his wife. A new life. As you progress through the second episode, when they go back, where are they now? Her cycle is even worse. She's trapped. She's trapped in a prison. And that prison is based on her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her husband, the condemnation of herself based on seeing her husband, and the comfort seeking of food. It's a vicious cycle, and you see it all going around and around and around as you watch this episode. And my heart is breaking for this girl, because she is equally afraid to lose her husband while she does everything to lose her husband. Do you understand what I'm saying here? She is terrified to lose him and seeking comfort in the exact thing that will cause the bigger problem and cause her to lose him. That's the circular prison she's living in. And I'm watching. And all I could think is, could I help this woman? Could I talk her out? Could I break her of this mental prison and get her focused on what matters? I was so distraught by the end of this episode. The entirety of the thing, they followed this couple for over 3 years. And she still was not at the point. So she had to lose 50 pounds initially. Then they asked her to lose more. I'm not even sure what that was at this point, to tell you that. But she still, at the end of that second episode, had not reached the point to where, and she was not anywhere near it. She was gaining weight steadily because of the vicious cycle she was in. She was going in the wrong direction entirely. She was making the problem worse and worse and worse all around. There are so many people that would say, oh, the husband should have been more supportive. He literally was. There's only so much anybody can do. And all I kept thinking of was, I'm sitting there, it's after midnight, the show's long over, and I can't go to sleep because I'm thinking about this woman. Meanwhile, this show was filmed during the pandemic. So this show is years old at this point. And all I could think of is, where is she now? How do I find her? Is there anything I can do to help her? I got very little sleep that night. And when I woke up, I thought, I can't keep thinking about this woman without attempting to find her. So I Google searched the name that they used on the show. I found a bunch of clips on the episode. And then I saw one post. She died in 2023. She never got out of her own way. Never broke the cycle. All of the things she said about herself in the show, she was bringing to life the entire time. Saying things like, it's not in the cards for me. I'm always going to be this way. I'm never going to have the surgery. I'm never going to be able to lose the weight. I'm going to lose my husband. All of these things that she said in 2023 all came to pass. It's a shame. It's tragic and on a level that I can't even explain. At least in my heart it is. She was the perfect example of when I tell you guys you're only separated from everything you want by your own ability to get out of your own way. You know, last week, 7 days ago, I had no idea this woman even existed. And now I can't stop thinking about her. Because you never really know when it's going to be your last time. You could waste your life telling the world, I'm never going to be able to do this. It's just not in it for me. I'm going to be fat and unhealthy all my life. I'm going to die this way. You can waste valuable moments believing this nonsense. But you never know when it's the last time you're going to say it. You never know when it's all going to come to fruition, because your own words, eventually they're going to catch up to you. Your own beliefs, what you say comes out of your heart. It will happen. So how many more moments will you waste? How many more moments will you waste living in negativity of what you allow yourself to believe? And how many more of those moments will it take for exactly what you say to happen? What if that same energy was placed into the idea that you can succeed? The idea that you will succeed with no doubt in your mind. We need to stop wasting time and start putting in the work. What you did yesterday, it no longer matters. All that matters is what you do today. Just look at what you need to do, make a list, and start doing it. And if you don't do it perfectly, who cares? Go back at it tomorrow, make it better. That's literally all it takes. Start doing the work. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.